Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Top 3 in 30 webinar. Our webinar today is provided for you by the Delaware National Estuarine Research Reserve. Our reserve is managed by DNREC's Division of Climate, Coastal, and Energy and is part of a national network of reserves funded by NOAA. My name is Lynn Pusey, and I'm the Training and Engagement Coordinator for the Reserve's Coastal Training Program. Today's webinar is titled Community Level Disaster Response, presented by Glen Stubbolo. Glen is the Delaware Emergency Management Agency's Community Outreach Coordinator and CERT State Coordinator. Thanks, Glen. Happy that you could join us today. I'm going to allow Glen to share his screen now to tell you a little bit more about himself and about community level disaster response.
Well, welcome everybody, and thank you. I see names that are attending, folks I know from past and folks that I know who know this material cold. I see Danielle there, and I see Jordana. Good to see everybody. Thank you for joining us today. What we want to talk about is information, but what you're going to find is this is very low-hanging fruit. What you're going to find, Lynn's going to share a bunch of information. Don't feel like you have to grab anything. There's a lot of stuff. This PowerPoint will be available, as well as a list of resources and some links. So as we go forward, you'll see some of them in the chat. There's also resources afterwards. So trying to advance here. There we go. What we want to talk about today is about preparing, and that preparing does make sense for everybody. If a big disaster hits, you may find that it could be 72 hours or more before help may come. And how are you going to be prepared for that? What we have found is that how well you prepare before a disaster impacts how quickly you can recover. So today, what I'm going to talk about briefly in summary is going to be the first hazards, what hazards we have, and how to be aware of them. Going to spend more time on preparation. And last is how response works in Delaware and for the individual. And the reason you could almost see that as a triangle with hazards and response, really how they impact us, all about preparation. So as we begin, I want to take a look at what hazards are. So I got a definition on the screen there for you. It's any source of potential danger, specifically that can cause harm to human life, property, infrastructure, the environment. Now, often we think of what we're seeing here, but we'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. But the first we want to take a look, as we take a look at the hazards, we often think of weather events. And so certainly weather events, natural hazards threaten lives and property and environment infrastructure. But there are other things that are hazards to us that we need to be able to prepare for. We have human-caused incidents. Unfortunately, we can know about terrorism. It's on our minds, civil unrest, and other acts that are intentionally designed to cause damage, specifically think of infrastructure. Another area we talk about are technological hazards. Now, these can be industrial accidents. We all think about that, maybe train derails or hazardous materials. But I also want you to see in that definition infrastructure failure. If you think of like a power grid going down, or think of any time you've been on the road and all the traffic lights are out, those are infrastructure failures that can create hazards for us. Now, these are the three that FEMA is going to talk about, but I like to add another one, and that's an internal or at-home types of hazards. And these can be things that occur. And the reason I like to include this is because when we talk about emergencies and disasters, they really can be, you can almost look at two lungs for them. And the first is it impacts individuals. Individual people are being affected, but it can also impact a community, a state, a county, a state, a region. And so that's why I like to include that, because an emergency, as we see, an emergency is an event that we can cope with ourselves. But a disaster escalates, and you can think of that as an individual. I can have an emergency, I can break my arm, and I can get to the hospital. Or it could be really bad, and I have to get help to do that. Or it can easily escalate. Think of a fire, a house fire that escalates to a whole block. Things can cascade and escalate. So I want you to bear these in mind. Individual, community, but within that community, I also want you to think perhaps of your workplace as well. So when we talk about these hazards and how they can be impacting Delaware, I want you to take a look at some of the vulnerabilities. We are a peninsula. That means there's bridges. Depending where you are, you may need to use a bridge to get off of the peninsula. Delaware has the lowest mean elevation in the United States, with some of our beach areas actually being below. So that's going to invite other types of hazards. We have a lot of unanchored housing. We have large gatherings. Just drive on Route 1 on Friday, and we can see that we have a big tourist population. We have a big agriculture, and we have these quick changing pockets of weather that can affect us. So where we take a look, certainly this isn't a comprehensive list of what can happen in our area. But what I wanted to do is put these on there. Every one of these, you could take a look. You can see some of the clippings to the left. These are things that happened in Delaware that we have experienced. You can also see on this listing that some of these can lead to others, can cascade. Flooding can lead to power outages. Hurricanes can spin off tornadoes. Tornadoes can bring flooding, which can create industrial accidents. So you can see they can be interwoven and interrelated. Certainly, that's not to say we don't have earthquakes. If you look at the clipping to the left, you can see biggest quake. So yes, Delaware can get them, which means we could get a tsunami. Doesn't mean we don't get other hazards, but these are the big ones that we see regularly. Certainly don't need to talk about infectious disease coming off of COVID, but we can also be thinking of some of our ag diseases like the bird flu. So we need to be mindful of that. These are some of the hazards that affect us. Why do we want to know these? Well, the key biggies that I want to just throw a quick moment on: flooding. Flooding, as we mentioned, we're very low state. There's coastal, but there's also flash flooding and riverine flooding. These pictures are all from Delaware. Now, the University of Delaware, specifically Danielle and Sea Grant folks, do a lot of work with this. Our partners at DNREC have a great flood planning tool, and I think Lindy's going to share that in the chat for you. So take a look, because Delaware is prone to these flooding incidents. Fire can happen at any time. And what I really want to point out is those house fires in the top left. You can see that one on the very left, fully involved. But look at the folks, the neighbors across the street. That fire jumped. And so while you think your neighbor's having a bad day, it could happen to you in a heartbeat, and how you prepare. Other images there, our community, that's a block below that firehouse. There's industrial and there's big plant as well. So I want folks to be aware of fire. Cyber, we can all remember last year when we had that Windows bug that closed things down, but it's a growing threat that we have. And certainly if you step outside, I went for a cup of coffee. My car said it was 100 degrees. So I want you to be aware these threats are present and they're aware. And why do we want to know them? Because if we know them, we can become better prepared. So let's take a look. Just to remind, a hazard is something that could be harmful, but a hazard by itself has to be accompanied by a risk. What's the likelihood that I'm at risk of that? You need to consider those things. And then on top of that, what is the impact? If that happens, what's the degree of harm that the hazard could cause? You loop those all together. And when you're doing that, you're thinking about, why is it good to know these? Because then we can see about preventing. If I know that there's a kid, am I going to leave my iron out? I can prevent that, or I can take preparation and steps to safeguard against that. And if something should happen, be planned for it. So step one in preparation is really doing this thought process of thinking ahead. We talk about it as doing it during blue sky. So when it's gray sky, you can just implement. So you're thinking what could happen. You're thinking about what's likely going to happen. And you're thinking about what's the possible impact. And along that line, we want to take a look at possible disruptions. What are the possible things? Could we lose power? I'll let you see those. I don't need to read those down for you, but I do want to point out a couple that really jump on me. Separation and reunification. Communications right now. If we lost all power, or if a tornado or something blew in right now because of thunderstorms with this weather, we're all at work. Where are our family? Do we have a plan to reunify, to know where they are, to check in? These are the types of things that you're thinking about Because as you're working together, you're thinking, well, that's good, Glenn, but what does it all mean? Well, you apply those to your family, to your situation. Are there any special needs you should be aware of? What about your important documents, your pets, your family, your medicines, all these things? What needs to be done? And while it can seem overwhelming, we're going to put it all together into a plan. Some items on the side there are things that make up a basic plan, and it can get overwhelming, but there are tools for you. So I've listed two. I mean, ready.gov has a plethora of information for you. Our friends in West Virginia prepared this emergency preparedness plan book. I love it. You can go page by page, work it through with your family, and you've got to but please be aware, some of the links in there are to West Virginia. But I share that link because I really like the work they did on that. So there's a plan. And if you're thinking of your workplace, there's information for you to help plan to create an emergency operation plan for your organization as well. Along the lines of preparation, I can't stress enough creating a support network, friends, relatives, neighbors, to touch base with those that are close and those that are not in the affected area. Perhaps as a community, you gather to make sure that everyone's being looked after, that everyone's being included. And you want to periodically touch base with your support network and keep them updated. I strengthened this statement about a communications plan, but to create that within your basic plan. Specifically, you'll note that second one I love, that's an out of town contact that folks could contact. And remember, during a disaster, the cell lines will likely get very crowded. So we recommend creating the plan is texting. It uses up less bandwidth than trying to make a phone call. So make sure communications are addressed. And we want you to prepare a kit. It's like going on a trip. And as you consider all these risks and what you need and all your specific needs and situation, are you going skiing or are you going on a summer beach? You know what your needs are and what your items are, but here are some basic items as well as a link that can give you a checklist to help you prepare a kit. You might prepare several. Keep one at home in case you need to stay at home. Prepare one for the car. Prepare one at work. Here at DEMA, we all have a kit that we keep here at work in case we need to stay here. If you have young children, you might even create a bag that's specific for them as well. And again, these lists will help you with that. And the last piece on this prep is you might get involved. By volunteering elsewhere, you're going to learn, you're going to pick up additional skills. We'll talk about CERT in a moment, but certainly the American Red Cross has wonderful programs. Delaware, the DVOD right there is a wonderful organization with volunteers to help out in disasters. And if you have a medical background, the Medical Reserve Corps. So consider taking classes, volunteering with agencies that are focused. We get into response, there's two pieces. You're going to look, I want you to understand the large scale type of a response for the county, the state, the government, and individually what your response might be. We've learned a lot since 9/11 and Hurricane Katrina, and we put those learnings together nationally. We've created a national disaster recovery framework, and from that, some key things, the National Incident Management System, the NIMS, which governs how responses are handled through the incident command system. Nationally, it's done the same way, which makes it the ability for mutual aid and talking the same language. Disasters are handled everywhere. And what does that look like? Remember, we talked about emergencies and disasters when we overwhelm resources. This is how disasters are handled. They begin with you. And that's why we talk about preparedness, so that you're prepared to be ready. Then what happens is under the ICS, that incident command system, things are addressed at the local level as much as possible. So what happens is something happens, you would call 911 or the local response team will take care of that. If there's an overwhelming need, they need more help, it bumps up to the counties and the county emergency management. If they are overwhelmed, then they come to DEMA, and DEMA starts leveraging additional. The governor can activate the National Guard. So you see how these steps are taken. And if the state's overwhelmed, and you've heard when a state declares an emergency, a state emergency, they submit to FEMA to be declared a a national emergency, and that's when FEMA becomes involved. So it's not like DEMA has a list of responders. What we have is support mechanisms to help the county to help the local. And that's how we respond. For individuals, the first step is to stay informed. Some information here is to check out how you can stay informed about what's going on. Please register for the DEN system right there. This information will be included, so please take a look at that. At the bottom, I also strongly encourage you to enroll in your county's emergency management and follow them because they'll be sending out notices there as well. Don't worry, I included those links, and those are included with the information that'll be in a follow-up from Lynn. And for you, this is where it comes, where the rubber meets the road, and that is you implement your plan. By having a plan that's thought ahead with kits that are ready, it reduces the stress and the worries and some of the fears when these things come up, and it allows you to implement your plan and to be proactive rather than reactive. To talk a little bit about the CERT, because your next step is you can take care of that plan for your family and your loved ones. CERT allows you to be really focused on that, but also gives you the ability to help your larger community. It's a free training. It can be offered by classroom or online. Both, though, feature hands-on skills that teach you how to be able to provide that care and assistance during that time when professional responders may not be available. CERTs are organized either by the individual. You can take the class and now you're better prepared, or you can join a team in your community to organize. But there's also teen and campus CERTs, as well as these trainings for workplaces. So for me, my top three for you, the hazards: know the risks, know the disruptions they can cause. Step two, make a plan, make a kit, stay informed. And step three, respond. Use your plan, help your community, join a CERT. Bottom line, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I guess we can open that to any questions.
Glenn, thank you so much. That was a lot of really great information. I think I got all of your links in the chat that you sent me ahead of time. But for all the folks on this call, there will be a follow-up email with all those links. You'll also get a PDF of the PowerPoint so that you can access the links that Glenn referenced within his PowerPoint. Glenn, we do have a question that just popped up in the chat. So the first one is, how many teen CERTs are in Delaware?
That was how many teen?
How many teen? Yes.
There are two. There are two currently. And what we're finding is very interesting is the VOTEC schools are doing that. They're actually offering it as a part of one of their tracks, which could be emergency management, which is really really interesting for me. I think it could also be worked where we could do this with 4-H's. So if anybody's connected with youth groups, that youth group could go through the training and actually create their own teen CERT.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a couple more questions related to CERT. One says, can you tell us a little bit more? Another question along those same lines is asking, what does the CERT training involve? So could you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. The first thing I would really encourage folks to do is just do a Google search for Delaware CERT. You're going to come to our webpage, and it's going to spell out all the information for you there. You're going to see that's pretty good too. I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. And so what you're going to see there is all the information about the different types of training. The training is a 20-hour training. We're finding it's usually around 16, but it's said to be 20. It is national curriculum. It's the same everywhere. CERT is located throughout the entire country. Every county has is a sponsor team, as well as the city of Wilmington in Delaware. So there are hundreds of thousands of CERTs throughout America. So in fact, in August, we gather for the National CERT Association Conference. The CERT teaches 9 key core areas, and they're going to involve light search and rescue, light fire, and fire suppression and prevention. It's going to teach some first aid, light first aid skills. Also going to teach everybody how to identify risks, CERT's role during terrorism, and to recognize those events. So if you take a look at that web page, you'll actually see the curriculum and the layout. You can actually open the entire CERT participant manual. I mentioned this is a free training. And if you go to that web page, you'll actually see a link for training. There's a training coming up at the end of this month, an in-person classroom training in Newcastle County. But you'll also see that you can take the online classes at any time. And then based on that, we schedule a practical skills day where you learn the classroom content and then you come in for a day to do all the hands-on. Within that, you can do it as an individual, and we hope that you would consider that because it makes you better prepared. But then you may, if you want to help in a larger way to help your larger community, you can join one of the CERT teams, or you could consider forming your own CERT team in your own community. Those teams would be formed up underneath the programs, which are administered through the county emergency management offices or the city of Wilmington's emergency management. If you have any more questions on that, I've included my email. You'll have that as a link as well. So please contact me or go to that webpage. If you hit, send an email, it comes directly to me and I'm happy to answer or meet with you about it. Or contact your community, your county's emergency management, ask for the CERT, look it up. On that CERT link that you have, I actually link the sponsors right there. Contact them directly.
That's great. Glenn, are there any workplaces that have a CERT program? Like, I know this is a community thing, but is there anything like that for workplaces?
We've done trainings to different workplaces. Now, whether they formed a team or not, I'm unaware of. But we've done trainings where folks will send their employees and we train them up. So whether they actually go the next step of forming up a team to call on if something happens within the building, I don't have that registered, but we
Okay.
have done that. And it is an option for folks. And I'd really encourage you to do that. It's almost like a benefit you could provide your folks because at the very least, they're becoming better prepared as individuals and for their family.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. We have another question in the chat. What initiatives exist in the state to engage middle and high school students in preparedness and readiness programs?
Well, I can't remember that ICS. ICS says a lot of these things we want to be addressed at the local level. So we want to look to our local partners to really help with that. And then what we're going to do is support that. So for me, it's a matter of we are available to do speaking engagements and presentations. We go to different schools to do their community fairs where we're trying to present materials and opportunities. And certainly the CERT is available as well. We've just had an intern. She developed a summer camp module that we're able to, don't be scared, be prepared to be able to teach to young kids from age 6 up through early teen. So our role support, but we also have this ability to try and make that happen. So if anybody is working with that population, would love to have that conversation to see if we can help with it or if we can help make connections with the local to try and get that kind of a support. One of the things we encourage our CERT teams to do is to start doing those, to do community outreach and education as well.
Awesome. Thank you. There's a question about the summer camp module that you just mentioned. Is that something accessible to anyone? Like, is that something on the website that folks could download, or how does that
Well,
work?
we just ran that, and it's something that we've done, but it's not anything tricky. I think anybody could do it, and I'd be happy to share the outline. So if somebody's interested in that, I'd just send me an email. Be happy to share it. It's not
Okay.
copyrighted or anything like that. It's fun. It took about an hour to do, and it was very engaging. The kids were really psyched, and it was a really hot day that we did it, and they still were really. It was a lot of fun. Glad we did that.
That's great. Okay, so just email you if they want
Hmm.
access to the module. Okay, great. Um, I don't see any further questions in the chat. If anyone has any please feel free to drop them in. We have just a few more minutes left. But I had a quick question. Um, what is the process for a CERT team to be deployed?
Mhm.
Like, so there's an emergency situation, the county's involved, and then is it like a phone tree? Like, how does that work
Sure.
for a
So,
CERT
so
team?
CERT is organized within the county emergency management. So they are deployed by the county. So the county is the program manager. Program manager, Kent County was recently deployed to help out with the cooling centers. And so there's the county makes the call. They contact whoever is their program manager. The program manager puts whatever their internal mechanism is to communicate that to the team. So they need to be a team member. Okay, so going to the training is the first part, but then you need to join a team. Teams are background checked so that they're able to provide service. They're taught some of the program sponsors' requirements. I know a big deal is HIPAA and privacy about maintaining that, especially if you're delivering care to people. And so there are these additional trainings that we want folks to do. Individually, you're going to leave CERT with a great preparedness. But if you join a team, that's where it comes through. It's coming through the emergency management. They're making the call and they're working their protocol, which is a deployment protocol.
Is there an expectation if you're part of a team that you have to drop everything and respond? Or if if you need to take care of your family in that moment, it's okay. Like you're not expected. I'm just curious about the
Oh no,
expectation.
that's a great thing to say because number one, anybody in emergency management will tell you you've got to take care of you and yours first. Uh, that's just the way it is. Number two, CERTs they're not responders. They are not first responders. They are support function. But if a tornado hits your neighborhood, if you're a CERT, you can go as a good Samaritan, be delivering aid, rendering aid. We don't want you being a first responder. So you're not
Got
sitting
it.
there waiting around for it. It's going to come out as a request. But the first thing is to make sure that you and yours are taken care of. You can't be effective if your mind's split. We want to make sure everybody's safe.
Perfect. Thank you. Glenn, I really appreciate all your answers to all of our questions.
Mhm.
We are just about at time. So I'm going to stop the question portion today. It looks like we got to everything that was in the chat. So that's wonderful. I'm going to take one moment here to say thank you to Glenn for being with us today. Thank you for all of this great information. Um, Appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody's questions and engagement with this. All of the resource links that we mentioned today will be sent out in a follow-up email. Our next Top 3 in 30 webinar will be Thursday, August 20th at 2 p.m. And we'll be learning about recreational health protections for Delaware's public waters. So those alerts that you see come out for water quality, we're going to be talking about those a little bit more. So that'll be a really good one. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for those upcoming webinars. So please feel free to check those out. We've got a couple in queue coming up. And finally, the last link to all the links that we've dropped in the chat today. My final link is for our survey for today's webinar. I do ask if you just take a moment, open that up. It's 3 quick questions. But this does help us in developing future webinars and finding the content that you're looking for. So that's all I have for today. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Glenn, once again, and everyone enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Stay heat safe. Bye, everybody.
Bye.